Hi everybody, I am Katie Crosby from Thriving Littles, and today I will be sharing a lot of insights on regulation and co-regulation, what it is, why it matters, why it's helpful, and why it just may change your life when it comes to interacting with kids in moments that are intense and all moments throughout the day. First of all, I'm a pediatric occupational therapist by training. That doesn't mean that this is all OT advice. So don't take any of this as medical advice. If you need support, seek professional services. This is purely information that I have learned through experiences and work with kids and families, and has really changed my own life personally. And if you find it helpful, I would love if you like and subscribe. So let's get into it. Regulation, what is it? So emotional regulation or sensory regulation is all about how we're making sense of the world and how we're able to take in everything going on around us and process it, filter it, adapt it, and respond in a way that makes sense. OTs may call this sensory integration, and the process is really separate from emotional regulation in some ways, and other ways it's really integrated because sensory and emotional input has direct connections together. So when we think about kids that are behaving a certain way, we want to think about what is happening in their body that is causing them to respond the way that they are. So if we think about this as kids needing support to work out complex sensations in their body in order to develop regulation skills of their own down the road, it becomes easier for us to be there for them and to support them in these moments that are feeling so intense. So self-regulation is really the outcome of thousands and thousands of repetitions of a caregiver or an adult being present with the child and soothing the child and being able to create space and be calm and regulated enough on their own in a way that helps that child to boost their brain development and develop what is called their prefrontal cortex as a result. So if we think about this as kids are developing from the bottom up, so they're developing the brain from the bottom up, and that bottom brain is really a reactive, primitive, physical brain that wants us or makes us want to lash out or use our bodies in a physical way or hit or kick or bite. So when we're thinking about regulation, it's all about helping kids to be able to stay in that impulse a little bit longer and respond instead of react again and again and again. Because it's that reactivity or that impulse control or lack of it that causes us to see kids' behaviors as not good or not okay or inappropriate because we're viewing it from an adult lens. So when I think about regulation, sensory regulation is all about feeling the sensations in the body and being able to respond in a way that makes sense or a way that's aligned with the expectations or the demands of the situation from moment to moment. Emotional regulation is really all about sitting with an emotion, so feeling something in the body and being able to, again, sit with it and respond in a way that makes sense. So if we are having trouble with sensory regulation, it may look like we have the capacity, or it may look like we do not have the capacity to take in a lot of sounds around us and respond to that in a way that is alerting or too much for that situation. So maybe we are shutting down, maybe we are getting overstimulated by all that sound. It's this difficulty with sound coming in that makes it really hard to process and respond and be available for the moment in a way that makes sense or a way that is helpful for everybody in that moment. So what is co-regulation? Where do adults really come in? Co-regulation is the step between, so there's dysregulation, self-regulation, and in the middle is co-regulation. Dysregulation is when we have an upset child or when we ourselves are upset. And the first step is always figuring out who needs to be regulated first. Is it the child or is it us as the adult? Because we will be triggered again and again by kids' behaviors, especially if we didn't have thousands of repetitions with a caregiver being present with our emotion in early childhood. So it makes this really complex because we so want it to be the child that's triggering us and the child that's making us angry or making us frustrated. And we need to strip that from our expectations or else everybody's stuck in spinning wheels. Because it doesn't mean that they can't influence our emotions or that they can't influence our state of being, because we're all humans and brains are social organs. However, what it means is that Kids do not have the capacity to cause us to be angry. So they do not have the power to create anger in our bodies. And it will definitely feel like it because there's this, like I said, brains are social organs. So there's an interbrain connection between us and kids, especially when it is a child that you have been caring for, or your parents, or you are with that child 24/7. Of course, you will be influenced by that. And kids, on the other hand, can also pick up on when we are stressed, or when we are feeling some tension or fatigue or just not patient today. They pick up on that, and you may see those behaviors increase, or you may see emotions increase because the child is saying, I see some things going on and I don't know what it is, but I really want to find out subconsciously. So I will keep pushing and poking and prodding until something happens and I get a reaction, or I make sense of this situation, or I get a safe, secure boundary from this caregiver. So the co-regulation process is really, really complex, and we dive really deeply into this in the course. So there are lots of different sensory self-soothing or soothing strategies we can use. Sensory strategies would be the first step. If a child is so upset and they're not processing language, because in that moment, the child's logic and rational and language brain is offline. So it is totally shut down. We cannot access it. It is nowhere to be found in that moment. So they're in this emotional body response where they are having a huge reaction. We need to look at it and think, okay, our words, not helpful right now. Our teaching and all the great things that we know and that we've learned as adults, not so helpful right now. We need to be there for them emotionally with our bodies and connect with them from a level of nonverbal being. So even if we're just staying nearby, taking breaths, trying to calm ourselves, because it gets so frustrating. And especially if you have a child with emotional regulatory vulnerability, meaning they are prone to more outbursts or more intensity than same-aged peers, then I am sending you so much love, because I witness it firsthand with so many families, and it's nobody's fault. And it's so much work and process and intentionality to sit with this and to take deep breaths and to stay there, because you're essentially healing yourself and all that emotional development that may have been missed throughout life. And you're working on boosting this child's emotional development and total development, really, because emotional development is development happening. So when we think about first using sensory strategies to soothe, that's really the first step of co-regulation, is just being there, present in space and breathing. And if you can do that and stay proximal or stay near the child, that's a huge signal to secure attachment, that there's somebody nearby, that when I'm upset, there will be somebody nearby that can support me, and that is bigger, wiser, kinder, stronger, which is from Circle of Security training. They use that terminology a lot. And it's really about being this vessel, which of course, again, I'm honoring the challenges in this, because we are not all safe, secure vessels all the time. It just doesn't happen. And really the attunement or the presence that needs to happen really just needs to be good enough, because we are all human, we all mess up, we all make mistakes. None of us are perfectly regulated all the time. And when we are tested and tested in these moments, it's really a call to action from what needs to be healed within us. So co-regulation, first thinking about sensory strategies to soothe. Next, I would think about what I call emotional signaling. So with emotional signaling, we're really thinking about, instead of using an infantile way of soothing, so rocking, bouncing, holding, shushing, using sound, all the sensory strategies to soothe, which would be the first step, we're really stretching out the regulation across space, and the child is taking on more of the demand of regulation. So we're doing about this much, and maybe the child's doing about this much. Versus in the first step, sensory strategies to soothe, the adult is doing about this much, and the child's doing this tiny fraction, where they're really beginning to develop those skills. Maybe they're looking away. If something is too much for them, they turn away. So that's showing a self-regulation capacity that is effective for them. However, they still need a lot of adult support and adult presence. So that second step would be looking at the child in a way that maybe visual gaze, or sharing our eye contact across space at arm's length would be helpful. Or maybe something like using our voice and affect cues, or You did not like that ice cream. You wanted the other kind. It's such a bummer. So using our affect, using our sounds, using things that may seem trivial, however, it's really, really, really important for brain development and for kids to pick up on our cues. So if we feel like we're being super exaggerated and really animated and alive, we're on the right track often. And we need to watch each individual child because every child is different, and absolutely this will not work for everybody. So I have many kids that if I did that, they would shut down or turn the other way because it is too much to be mirrored in that moment and to use that emotional signaling so directly. So we need to take steps back and think about it as what is most helpful for this child in this moment. And then if it isn't working, we can adapt or we can try it for a while to help be consistent with it. And then maybe in a week, if it's not working, we try something new. So the next step after using that emotional signaling would be to then go to those more language-based centers. We might say something. So kind of overlaps with emotional signaling. We're watching the child, we're noticing when they can be ready for language, when they're ready to hear something like, validating or normalizing, like, oh, you really wanted that ice cream flavor, or you really wanted to keep playing at the park and go down that slide. This makes so much sense that you're upset. Oh, no wonder you're upset. You loved going down that slide. Of course, of course. And if they're feeling frustrated or mad, it might need to be a little bit edgier. We might need to mirror their bodies a little bit more. So, oh my goodness, you wanted that toy, you grabbed it from him. Oh, you grabbed that toy so fast. We can't hit friends to get toys. We need to figure out something else. I wonder what we could do. So really stating that boundary again. So after we validate, we normalize, we've used sensory strategies to soothe, we've used emotional signaling, the child knows we are on their side, we are on their team. That's when we go to, I wonder what we could do next. So beginning to open up those problem-solving centers of the brain and develop those from the inside out. So I'm not saying, here's what we need to do. You are going to go over and apologize to that child and you will never do this again. So the goal isn't to tie it in a pretty bow. The goal is to open up space for problem solving. If they need some options for I wonder what to do, great. I wonder if we could take turns, or I wonder if we could, or how we would know when Joey is ready or already done with that toy. I wonder how we could tell. I wonder what his body would look like. I wonder what he would do. I don't know. I don't know when he'll be done. He looks like he's having a lot of fun with that toy. Or I wonder what we could do while he's playing with it. Ooh, there's a cool slide over there. Should we go check that out? Or, ooh, let's try to make this mud pie. I wonder if we want to do that while he's waiting. So we're helping to build this, and we're helping kids to know that we are on their side, we're present with them. Life is tough, and we aren't about fixing or totally removing the conflict. It's really about being there together, staying in the angst, staying in that frustration, mirroring their emotion, showing them that emotions are safe and okay. And really, co-regulation is all about just being present so the child can ultimately do this down the road on their own. So instead of saying, ooh, I feel frustrated, let's never talk to anybody again. Let's hide out at home and binge watch Netflix. And I don't like conflict at all. It isn't safe. Instead of doing that, we're resorting to other maladaptive patterns or adaptive patterns, depending, like numbing or shutting down or attacking. We are able to sit with it and relate in a functional way and engage with the environment in a way that makes sense. So I really hope this was helpful. If it was for you, please like and subscribe to my channel. It means a ton and encourages me to keep making these videos and stay on this video making journey and YouTube process. So thanks for watching, and I would love to know what you think in the comments below. Until next time, I'll see you then.